Our Krishna consciousness movement is meant to give people good association so this change may take place. And we actually see that by this method, people all over the world are gradually becoming devotees. As for samskara reformation, this is possible by good association. For by good association, one develops good habits, and habit becomes second nature. Therefore, bhakta sane vas. Let people have the chance to live with bhaktas. Then their habits will change. In the human form of life, one has this chance, but Narottama Das Thakur sings, Huri Huri Vipale Janama Goinainu. If one fails to take advantage of this opportunity, one's human life is wasted. We are therefore trying to save human society from degradation and actually elevate people to the higher nature. As for kama and karma, desires and activities, if one engages in devotional service, one develops a different nature than if one engages in activities of sense gratification. Of course, the result is also different. According to the association of different natures, one receives a particular type of body. Again, Prabhupada quotes the same verse. Karanam guna sangasha sadasad janma jonishu, in which means from the Bhagavad Gita 13, chapter text 22, Karanam, guna karanam, like Sarva Karana Karanam, which means the cause, guna sanga, or guna sangosya. The cause is association with the modes of nature. In this way, sadasa, one is born, janmaj, in this material world, or one takes on certain qualities. Therefore, we should always seek good association, the association of devotees. Then our life will be successful. A man is known by his company. If one has the chance to live in the good association of devotees, one is able to cultivate knowledge, and naturally one's character or nature will change for one's eternal benefits. Quite an extensive purport. Kalasam aswabhava sanskara kama karma gunadabhihi swamahi dvasta maki vir urti makvir upas siddha somaganata mirandasha gananjana shalakya chakshurudminitam yes yena tasmai shigurave namaha. Okay. So yesterday we're having a discussion of the 5 important principles in devotional service, most important principles, things you have to do to be Krishna conscious. There's actually 64 items, but of those, the 5 are absolutely essential. And, worshiping the deities, chanting the holy name, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, living in a holy place, associating with devotees. So, anyway, essentially we had a discussion yesterday that if one associates with devotees, the other ones come out automatically. It's interesting, because when you associate with devotees, and this is also mentioned by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions to Rupa Goswami, Doshvara Tata Siddhasangota Bhajana Kriya. He gives the progression of devotional service. He said in the beginning there's a little preliminary faith or interest. And because of that preliminary faith or interest, Shraddha, actually the word Shraddha is quite interesting. Let me define the word Shraddha, analyze the word. Shraddha, comes the word Shrak, which means heart. You understand? Which is actually the heart. Dha means to go or to give. So, actually, faith means to give your heart. That's interesting. It's very interesting. In other words, not simply to believe in something. Generally in English, we consider, what do they say, the Christians say, believe in the Lord and you'll be saved. In other words, the Lord exists. That's, believe in something in English usually means it exists, yeah. Like I believe this is Hillsborough. We're living on the outskirts of Hillsborough. I believe this is wood. I believe that I'm wearing glasses. I affirm faith. Not faith, but believe that I'm wearing glasses. So faith or shraddha means to give your heart. So it's not like saying, I give my heart to my glasses. I give my heart to Hillsborough. Of course, there is that song. I left my heart in San Francisco. I'm not going to sing it in class. So that's what faith means. But in this particular verse, Rupa Goswami, of course, originally by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Ado Shraddha means in the beginning you're a little interested. Ado means in the beginning, like Adi Purusha, the first. Understand? Ado, Adi. So in the beginning you have a little faith, those Shraddha, and then immediately because of that interest, you begin to associate with devotees. Ado Shraddha Sadhu Sango Ta. And then by associating with devotees, then you do bhajana kriya. Bhajana kriya basically means the activities of bhajana or bhakti, which we mentioned before, like living in a holy place and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and all these other things, chanting the holy name. Because if you're living with the devotees, actually it's essential to live with the devotees. And if you can't live with the devotees, at least, because now through modern technology we can live on the internet with devotees, which is nice, It's like we're broadcasting class, and there's some people who are with me. One person, look at right now, one person's in India, another person is in Croatia, another person is God knows where. Anyway, maybe Australia, whatever. This is a good time for the whole world. So in other words, to live with the devotees, make one's home, live in a holy place, doesn't mean you got to head immediately to Vrindavan, but you make your home a holy place. Everything in the home is dedicated. Manasa Deha Geha Yoga Shimor Abrilam Tuya Nanda Kishore, Tuya Pade, Nanda Kishore, my mind, my body, my home, everything is yours. Oh Nanda Kishore, then your home becomes a holy place. Actually, I just got a letter from someone and they were asking, why is it so difficult for me to chant in my home? And when I go to the temple, this is a devotee in Sydney, when I go to the temple, it's just so easy to chant. It's the holy place. In other words, what makes a place the holy place is there's devotees there. A few weeks ago I was speaking about this. There's temporary holy places and there's eternal holy places. Eternal holy places are like Vrindavan, Mayapur, Jagannath Puri, Haridwar, etc. like that. These are eternal holy places. They'll always remain holy places because people do go there to dump off all their bad karma, the Ganges. And there's temporary holy places by the mercy of the pure devotee, such as Srila Prabhupada. These places become holy places. Like any place that Prabhupada visited is a place of pilgrimage. We go and, for example, in Atlanta, there's the room in the temple where Prabhupada stayed in. And when I used to be the GBC there, I used to go in that room and chant japa in that room. And also, I slept in that room. Not on Prabhupada's bed, obviously, but I slept on the floor. And you just felt enlivened. I mean, actually, at night you dream about Prabhupada. There's a special vibration there. And years ago, when I used to be a pujari, when I was a devotee, used to be a devotee, so many years ago, sometimes I would sleep in the temple room. And I had these amazing dreams of the deities. I mean, it's not that I planned it out or anything like that, or did anything different. But I have amazing dreams. Wow. And you could just feel the spiritual atmosphere being next to the deities. So that's Vishuddha Sattva, Shuddha Sattva. And then when you go into, I mean, like, for example, let's say when I'm traveling, going into an airport or something like that, it's definitely not a Shuddha Sattva environment. It's harder to read. Like if you're at an airport, sometimes I go with all intentions just to sit down and read Shastra the whole time I'm waiting for the airplane, but it's just like, the modes of nature are just like, I engage in service, I do my email. It's not that I just pull out the latest, no, I'm just thinking of some funny movie or something like that. Anyway, Mad Max movie. You don't know what Mad Max is? Yeah, it's not that I... Well, the latest Mad Max movie. Like that, I do engage in service. But it's much more difficult. I mean, you got to be honest. It's much more difficult to read Shastra when you're in, in the mode of passion or ignorance place. I mean, I couldn't imagine going into a bar and reading the Bhagavatam. It'd be very difficult. So you require a mode of goodness place to execute devotional service. I mean, it's a fact. You can't. It's much harder to do it anywhere else. So. Anyway, so that comes from the association of devotees, and which is extremely important. So that referring back to the translation or the verse here, that is actually a samskara. Devotees and people in general misunderstand or don't understand the meaning of the word samskara. Actually, let me translate the word so you understand. Kara means action, and sang means perfect action. Which is interesting. But really, a samskara means an action that creates an impression on your soul or subtle body. That's really what it means. It doesn't mean simply some ritualistic ceremony you do at a certain time of life. Like you have a namakarana, when you give someone a name after they're born, or Garbhadan Samskara, or Antyeshti. Antyeshti refers to the funeral. The whole purpose is to create, by association, an impression on the consciousness of someone so that they're Krishna conscious. Of course, there's material samskaras that create bad impressions. I mean, for example, in South America, they have this thing called Sweet 16. You heard about that? Where the girl comes out, she's 16, and comes out and just like displays all of her wares or something like that. This now I'm a lusty dog. Oh. Or when I was young, of course I didn't do Sweet 16. I wasn't a girl when I was young. But we had this thing called a bar mitzvah. 13, this for Jewish people. And so, but it didn't create any good impressions. The whole purpose of the thing was to declare, today I'm a man. And then part of that mundane samskara was to drink liquor. So what I did is created the wrong impression. So Krishna consciousness, just like it's mentioned here, the cause of being in the material world is karanam guna sangasas, association with the modes. The cause of getting out is association with the Shuddha, with devotees, with the holy place, with the Bhagavatam, with the holy name. You were mentioning the 5 most important principles of devotional service, Sankirtan. So that's the cause of getting out. So we have to be very careful to avoid bad association. Like Lord Chaitanya said when he was asked, what is the quality of a Vaishnava? He didn't just go into verses like the Tiksha Karunika Suradasa Vidyanam. Vaishnava is merciful, Vaishnava is compassionate, doesn't have any enemies, etc. He said, Satsanga Tyag, a Vaishnava Char. He said the first principle is the Vaishnava avoids bad association, asat sangha. Just like sadhu sangha, asat means temporary, or association that is not spiritual. Asat sangha tyag, that means renunciation. Tyagi is a person who renounces, tyag is the process of renouncing. So asat sangha tyag, a Vaishnava achar. Achar means behavior. So we have to be very careful. That's why Prabhupada mentioned or wrote down the principles on, his list he put on the wall of the temple. Devotees only eat prasadam, food offered to Krishna, cooked by devotees. Of course, the devotees saw that list, they didn't follow so carefully, or in other words, they deliberately dissipated, like Prabhupada, 26 2nd Avenue. They had like a coffee or a donut shop right next door, and the devotees would go there and take their coffee or donuts, and Prabhupada would walk by and they would slink down on their seats so Prabhupada couldn't see them. Prabhupada would look in the window to see which one of his disciples was there. That was before Starbucks. Starbucks is one of the most successful chains in the world. I mean, in India, everywhere you go, they have it. But anyway, so Prabhupada listed that, basically avoiding, don't eat food cooked by non-devotees, because the mind will be wicked. And of course, we do have the example, which I've cited many times, how grandfather Bhishma, Dronacharya, and Gripacharya's minds became wicked because they ate food, which Prabhupada said, in Duryodhana's kitchen. It's as simple as that. In the Mahabharata, it describes they actually became possessed by demons. Duryodhana, this was an interesting story in the Mahabharata, that Duryodhana one time got really discouraged because the Pandavas saved him from the Gandharvas. He was one time captured by the Gandharvas, and Arjuna was friends with the Gandharvas, Chitraratha, who he had previously fought with, and Arjuna saved Duryodhana from the Gandharvas. And so Duryodhana became so depressed, and at that time there were no antidepressants, that he decided to kill himself. He decided, really? And of course, his way of killing himself was not like a gun or a knife or poison. He decided just to sit down in yogic position, because Duryodhana was not just an ordinary run-of-the-mill American or Australian. He just wanted to leave his body through yoga. And as he was meditating like that to leave his body in fasting, the demons took him out of his body and gave him a pep talk. It's like if you're in a football game or something like that, when some of your players get a little less enthusiastic for some reason, they have a pep talk. They all sit in the huddle. So they took Duryodhana out of his body for a pep talk, and they said, don't worry, we're going to possess Bhishma, Drona, Kripa, and the way that they were able to possess was through the food. Now we know through the Ayurveda that when one eats food, it gets transformed to blood. And the blood is the carrier of consciousness. The soul's here. I mean, I understand we have a nervous system too. I'm not completely ignorant of modern medicine and different aspects of the material body. But, the blood actually is the carrier in a certain sense of consciousness. And so when you put in impurities into the blood, I mean, what you eat goes in the blood. I mean, I was telling the devotees last night that when I used to eat a really fatty diet, prasadam, used to have a lot of cheese in the diet, and the doctor took a blood test, you could see the stuff floating in a little vial. You could see little globules of fat. Now it's not like that. They were just floating there. So the food gets in the blood. Everybody knows that. And so the consciousness, when you eat something that, that's been prepared by someone not offered, not prasadam, maybe vegetarian, it affects the consciousness. On the other hand, that's why Prabhupada wanted prasadam distribution. It was interesting. I was listening to a class that Prabhupada was giving, and Prabhupada said, anyone who eats prasadam is assured a human birth in the next life. When the devotees heard that, they said, wow, at least we're assured a human birth. And Prabhupada saw that they were all going to sit back on their laurels, just like, at least we're going to have a human birth, even if we blow it in this lifetime. And Prabhupada said, yes, but monkeys are also a species of human beings. So Prabhupada just like, a zinger to that, So they were thinking, if we took prasadam, we were sure to be human beings in the next life. I mean, but of course, there's also human beings in many suffering conditions around the world. In America, I mean, we're in the minority. America and, what we call first world countries. I'm not sure America is first world country anymore. For reasons I can't discuss in class. So, there's many human beings who are suffering like worse than animals right now. So anyway, and Prabhupada also told me that when I was taking the children out to feed the ducks, leftover prasadam, the ducks would take human birth in the next life. So that's the association. It's so potent. I mean, prasadam, if it's offered, if it's prepared by the right persons, because Krishna doesn't have to accept. Krishna, I've given that example many times before, that we've seen that if the food is not prepared properly, the bhoga, that sometimes you'll find the deity plate on the floor when you go to take the plate off of the altar. Because the Krishna and Radharani especially is like, we're not offering this garbage to Krishna. So the consciousness of the person cooking has to be. So it's all a samskara, an impression. And when people have that impression, then they'll become Krishna conscious. Sadhu Sangha. You can associate with devotees through the tongue, and through the ears, through the eyes, through any of the senses, the perceptive organs. Like if you serve a devotee, Mahat Seva Mahura Vimuktes, as the Bhagavatam says. Or if you see a devotee, or if you hear a devotee, or you taste the prasadam, or you smell the tulsi leaves and flowers offered at the lotus feet of Krishna by a devotee. That's all satsanga. That's all samskara. And by that we become Krishna conscious. So here, in other words, just to finish up class before the bell rings, We just have to be careful who and what we associate with through any of the senses. You watch some non-Krishna conscious movie, like Mad Max, then you're going to become, you get in that consciousness, isn't it? Mad Max, So, I mean, it's a fact. I even gave that example because I like to keep up with the news. That, we read about the news. We read the news, not about the news. We read the news about some political personality who I won't mention in class. And one night I was dreaming that I was a member of his cabinet. I was there in the White House and I was serving this person. The last thing I'd want to do in the three worlds. So anyway, so you've got to be careful what and who you associate with through any of the senses. So sorry we didn't have time for it. Be careful. Devotional service or material world.